Okay, this video is called Why I Love Palantir, Take 1. And I'm going to call it that, I think, because it draws attention to the videos that get views really fast. And the subject of this video is related to Palantir only because why would someone like me be interested in the technology? Yes, I have criticism about a lot of it, but um, I just did that last video and somebody replies Palantir to the moon and all that. Well, it reminded me of this thing that happened in 2010, and I've never described it or talked about it, written about it, but it's one of those videos that I might be calling something like about aliens and technology, This is something that happened, but all of a sudden it occurred to me, oh, that's why I like Palantir. Okay, so I'm gonna say it, and then I'm gonna just do this tacky little drawing as I go, and get it out of my system. And I don't care what anybody thinks. We can call it fantasy or not, but it's time. And this is part of why I love Palantir. Okay, so 2010. I was barely learning about the secret space program. I was just learning James Casbolt's material, Duncan O'Finion's material, and a good friend that I had just made who was part of this also. Anyway, it was one of those times. So I had a computer, and it was a desktop. I didn't have a laptop or anything. So one day I get a call, and my father had had a stroke, and he was in this hospital, so I was getting ready to go visit him in LA. And I was looking on Google Earth at the neighborhood where his house was, and which is where I grew up till I was 8, and then I saw the hospital where he was at was not far. In fact, the hospital where he was now at was a big hospital on a main boulevard. Our house was a couple blocks this way. Anyway, as I was looking down on Google Earth, and I was looking at my elementary school, how I went to it. I had to walk a mile to elementary school as a first grader alone or with my best friend, if you can imagine little kids walking alone to elementary school, but that's how it was. So anyway, as I was looking down on this Google Earth, this thing happened. My brain opened up in such a way that the experience caused me to pace around the room and cry for like 2 freaking hours. And all I could say to myself was, oh my God, it's a big operation. So here's what happened. So I'm looking down on Google Earth, and I'm getting ready to, go to LA. And suddenly, this is what I received. And this, I don't care, let's call it fantasy, because I have to say it straight up the way it is. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But I'm just going to say it just the way it came. All of a sudden, I realized this. Okay, like here's the San Fernando Valley. And I'm looking down on Google Earth. And my father just had a stroke. Oh, maybe he was going to die and everything. Or whatever. All of a sudden, this is what I saw. I wish I could describe it. Here we go. I'm going to try. Let's take the valley, for example. You could take the whole of Los Angeles, too. There were, like, invisible, okay, like let's say over a certain part of San Fernando Valley, there was a craft that was a Syrian-based craft over my area. And it came to me that when my father, now this involved my father, me, and this gentleman that I was involved with at the time. I don't care if it sounds weird, here we go. It came to me that when my father was if he was gonna die, he was gonna go back up into this particular craft, and so was I, and so was this friend, that we knew each other, and that we were basically, before we came down incarnated on Earth, we were stationed on this vessel, and we had our positions up there in a different format than we have as human family down here. Well, when that came to me, I saw just in a flash, it was like, oh my God, like all of LA. Okay, the best way to describe it is this. Every neighborhood, like let's say you have East LA, and you got the beach area. Then you got Venice. Every neighborhood on the planet also has a corresponding ship, like a mother type ship, that belongs to different races. So you might have, and I didn't see exactly which was what, but like let's say in a certain neighborhood of, Compton might have some certain vessel overseeing it, meaning that the vessel over the neighborhood was in control of the neighborhood. And those species in each ship was also in control of that certain neighborhood. That's why an energy feels a certain way in a certain part of the valley, and then it feels different if you go to Beverly Hills and all that, because there's different races that had their motherships so-called parked above. Now, I didn't see them. They're either invisible, but it was like the whole of cities, and this would apply to every major city as well, wherever there's a population, is blanketed right above it with crafts that belong to various races that are controlling the neighborhoods. And sometimes they mix, like maybe when I was growing up, there was a certain kind of energy system here where, for lack of a better term, positive Pleiadian, positive Syrians, and then blended with in this neighborhood, it crossed over the border. Like how gangs will tag their neighborhoods and all that. Well, that's what was going on from above or underground as well. That all these civilized areas are monitored and tagged by different groups that have their ships parked above it. That's the simplest way to say it. Okay, but then it got worse. Okay, then it got worse. When I stood up and I'm like, it's like I could see in my mind's, in my frontal lobe that was what was going on. But then it quickly got into something bigger, and it went like this. And this is why I love Palantir, because here's what I saw. Now this probably isn't anything new. They probably have the system on Earth. Like when I watch Mike Morales on Above Ground World News, what I saw is similar to what he shows, because I'm not a tech person. Okay, when Mike shows the weather patterns on Earth, he can overlay, touch a button on his computer, and he can overlay and see where all the bunker fuel lines are, or you can overlay something on the world map and see where this is, where that is. Okay, well that's a technology that I saw in 2010, but I saw it as being used by not us, or maybe some branch of humans, but it was mostly, okay, it went like this. Like there's this technology that, like let's say, okay, take my neighborhood here. And let's say that when I ran away from home and I felt so protected that there was a lot of good, like good folks helping me get out of there. You might say that. Okay, well, let me try to get to the point. And this might be embarrassing to upload, but I don't care. I have to do it. Okay, so what they have on their ships, and this would be whatever race, I don't know exactly who or what, they have this system where, okay, and this has to do with abducting people and everything. They can monitor, this is so hard to draw behind the screen. Okay, let's say they're looking down the San Fernando Valley. Some aliens or human technology, right? And you've got all these blocks, streets. So they can look down on their computers, and this has probably already been in a sci-fi or Star Trek, so you could say I was making this up, but it was so visceral when I was seeing it, and it made me cry. I mean, who paces around and cries about seeing this shit? So anyway, and it was like so immense. I couldn't get over how giant this operation is. And it was the first time I really saw. Now, a lot of people already go up in spaceships and see shit. Well, I haven't done that, but this was part of it. Okay, so here's what they can do. They can look down on, here's so-and-so avenue, right? Here's so-and-so street. Here's all these houses, right? And if they want to see all the human bodies that are inside the houses, they will show up on the screen like little dots. Like, let's say they're all white. Little dots. Like, let's say in this house, there's 4 people live here, 2 people live here. It's basically all these little dots, and these little dots um, give a general overlay of where human bodies are located. Okay? So then let's pretend I'm an alien. Then I want to know, okay, in this block right here, with all these little white dots represent the bodies, then I want to zoom in, and this is why it reminds me of Palantir. Then I want to zoom in, and I want to find out how many male bodies are in this thing. So it'll show me that by changing the little white dots of bodies into some other color thing. So there would be like a color scheme for each person. There would be like a pulse to define certain qualities about each body. There might be a tone come up, describe certain things about each body. So for example, if they wanted to abduct humans or find out what's going on in a human's personal life, and all they have to do is say, computer, whatever, show me who's having sex right now in this block. And the bodies that are engaging in sexual acts will come up like a red pulse, for example. Or they'll say, show me all the people in this block that are meditating right now. And then you'll see these little dots with the purple come off. So from above, or whatever, they can easily go down, look through all the walls and all this other shit, and identify the kinds of human beings that are down there and what they're doing. Okay, just for scoping out the stuff, or for so-called applying effects onto certain bodies, right? They can ask any question they want. Who's having an argument in this block? Or they can zoom out and go stuff like, how many arguments are happening right now in this sector? Meaning, like, let's say North Hollywood or something. And all the little human bodies everywhere, who's ever having an argument, maybe it'll pulse out red and brown or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That there's a system that does sort of what Palantir does, where you just ask something of it, and immediately it goes down and identifies all the energetic frequencies coming off the human bodies and what they're doing and how they're doing it, da da da. And there's all this politics going on even between species. Like, let's say there's a Syrian vessel over the neighborhood. Oh, there's also an Andromedan, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it's not like they're exactly fighting over territory, but yeah, maybe this might be why. Okay, like, let's say, like when I was growing up, the neighborhoods were kind of calm and peaceful. Maybe it is right now on that street. But maybe over 20 years, it got infiltrated with energetics from a nearby mothership or whatever that wanted to take over, that ended up infiltrating and dominating and sending frequency down and influencing the people. I know this, you know, and I'm just exactly describing what I saw because it was like so profound in my brain that I couldn't do anything but walk in circles and cry. That, and then I don't, you know, there's no way that my father has passed away. He didn't pass away on that visit. But it's like, what the fuck? I mean, if I'm making this up, then hey, it's a good fairy tale. But that's what I saw, was that their technology, their computer systems are able to zoom in any area. So even when I left home and I ran away from home and I was hitchhiking all over the place, and I've always felt this, that and I have to tag the word Pleiadian because later in years I sort of saw this. People would have called it a guardian spirit or whatever, but he was sort of like an older man that seemed like he was following me around and watching over me. So like, let's say I ran away from home. Okay, I got out of Hollywood. It was all this bad shit. I didn't want to be there. So the technology on the computer, like beep beep, oh look, beep beep, this one's leaving. Because that day I left, June 20th, 1974. That day I walked to the Ventura Freeway, wherever it is, it was up here. You know, I was the only one doing that. My body would have radiated or emanated this frequency and basically shown up on their screen. Look, she's standing on the freeway. Look, she's leaving. Because, first of all, I got out of the crowd. Not many people were doing it. And I was of a certain mindset. And then forever after, for the next 5 years, I was followed not so much by the FBI, which I was, but the groups, the alien groups that are my friends that were protecting me all the way along because I had a lot of protection. That's kind of the end of the story. That's the kind of technology that I saw that they have, and it's why they can, like I said before, why they can put frequency down, do abductions, see through the wall, do all these things, and ask all these questions. Like, they can zoom in on my family, and maybe someone on this vessel is related to me. Well, you know what I mean? There's all these options, just like what Palantir does. What it explained, especially in that second video that I put the link to in the other one, it can zoom in on a situation and grab up all this data and do things with it and to it and make decisions from on high, right? So the guy that goes Palantir to the moon, they got that going on the moon. But I would suggest that these so-called extraterrestrial species have been giving us human beings this technology, whether through dreams or the magnificent brains of Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and all these other people. But it's their technology first. It's theirs first. It's theirs first. Just like Tesla, he said he received some of his visions, dreams, ideas from an ET source. I mean, it's kind of obvious that it isn't just, well, anyway, I don't want to go pontificate too much, but I just wanted to kind of say that, why I love Palantir. And, if it's used in the right way, yeah. The only thing I would suggest about that is, okay, and that's what that video was saying was, man, they're taking everything into AI off the human control grid, where everything is being done and monitored by machine technology and artificial intelligence. Well, let's hope that stays good. But obviously it's strong enough to enable other species all these years that you've heard stories hours after hours about the technology the Andromedans have, the Syrians have, this one, Aldebaran, blah, 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 it goes on and on. You can just listen for hours on YouTube about what the aliens can do, okay? But what it left me with after all the crying was over with was that, Jesus Christ, all the cities are blanketed with control systems in the form of ships or that we can't physically see. I don't know if they're in the atmosphere or they're far away, but it's all covered. All these cities are covered. All the breeding programs and everything are monitored, covered, affected from above and below. We haven't even talked about the below yet. But there are evidences that species below the ground are affecting what's above it. Just like Credo Mutwa said, in Africa it's the same thing. You had the Chitauri underground, the ones that were getting off on human war and everything, underground, like getting off on fomenting wars and stuff like that above the ground. Anyway, so that's the reason why I love Palantir, because of that 2010 vision of that. And I have no idea if it is true that my father and I, before we incarnated here, have a station. I mean, it sounds fucking crazy, but it's like I saw this, like, if and when I die, and if I go up to there first, at least, that I'll meet him there, that he's there, and we know each other from there, including this friend of mine. But when we incarnated into these physical bodies with all this frickin' drama, you forget that this is where you're from, that you're stationed on this particular vessel that's come to Earth in this manner, and we're from a different, I don't know if any of that's true, but I felt inspired to make this video right now. So it's 19 minutes, so I did it. Let's see what happens. And that's why I love Palantir, because it reminds me of the same technology that this is. Okay, and if everything happens in a good way, that would be so nice. That's all I want to say, because this war, this other stuff, this badness about abuse to children, this Luciferian system that's happening, Hollywood is just fucked up. We cannot have that. That has to go. That's why I rat it out. That's why I talk about it, because this is why I left home. So we need to clean this place up. That kind of thing. If y'all want to be a cannibal and everything, there's a place for you over there. Where do they do it? In some other part of the area. Y'all can go do that, but you need to leave us alone. You need to leave everybody else alone out of it that doesn't want to be involved in it. That's all I have to say about that, you know. So there's still a war for space. There's still an energetic war. It's a spiritual war. And the short period of time that I have here, I'm going to continue to do it. And it's kind of hard to rest until when I hear the downfall's coming, and when the geography gets a little cleaned up, because I came here to be a house cleaner. You know, that's a big task, to go clean other people's houses that don't clean up after themselves, by the way. Okay, see you later, bye.